What is going on, guys? My name is Tim Ruswick, and today we've got a question that I see pop up all the time when I'm live streaming. It comes up in the chat. I see this on comments on sometimes on the Ludum Dare page, but it's basically a question like, are Game Jam games real games? Because for me personally, like for a long time, I didn't consider myself having made or finished a game because I only made Game Jam games, and I was just like, oh, those don't really count. Like those aren't quite real. And then I would see other people say the same thing, like on Reddit, like, have you made a game that's not a Game Jam game or something? Like they would use it as some kind of meter of like quality. And so it brings up the question, like, are Game Jam games like real games? And the more I look back in my portfolio, the more I like look at some of the stuff that I'm proud of. A lot of it has to do with stuff that I did in limited amounts of times in game jams and events and whatever. And I personally think they are real games, and I think you're being hard on yourself if you don't consider your game jam games a real game. Like they're just the same thing as any other game. They were just made under a time constraint. And there's been a lot of successful indie games, especially, that have come from game jam games. Like they're the evolution versions of game jam games. And game jams, like, they're great and they're fun, and you have to limit your scope. You have to make sure you make a small game, but that doesn't mean there are any less games than any other games you make, right? Like, you're limited in the amount of time you can do in 48 hours or 72 hours, depending on the kind of game jam that you're doing. So I mean, you have to make a small-ish game. But one, that doesn't mean it's not a real game. And two, there's nothing saying that you can't continue on after it and make something even cooler and just add on to it and really create a cool little game out of it. Like, it kind of annoys me now, because I know I used to believe that. Like, I used to believe that, like, oh, my game jam games like aren't as good as my regular games or whatever. But now that I've kind of shifted my position, it starts to annoy me when like people don't give themselves credit for making a game, or they talk shit about others' achievements because they're game jam games or whatever. And I just feel like it's a bad mindset to have, because it's an achievement regardless of, you know, the circumstances. Like, no matter what you did, you built a game in a weekend. That's pretty damn impressive. Go and tell that to one of your friends that doesn't make video games, or go and tell someone that knows anything about video games. The fact that you were able to make a video game in a weekend, that's insane. That's an accomplishment on its own, and one that should be celebrated. Like, you should, you know, you did a good job. You made something in a weekend. You did it. You finished. You published. That's more than most game developers do, by the way. Very few game developers actually ever finish their games. You should know that. So if you've entered a game jam, you're in the top percentile of game developers out there. But on top of that, like I said, like, there's nothing separating game jam games from regular games. So if you made a game jam game, you made a game, you finished a game, you are a game developer. Don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise. Like, they're just as much games as anything else, and that's just how it is. So, super short, ranty video today, just kind of telling my thoughts. I just wanted to share that because it's come up on the stream a couple times. Doing another stream today in a couple hours for Ludum Dare 40. Make sure you join in. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have a fun time. Starting stream a little bit later, but we're going to stream most of the day. So join in. If you got any comments on this, please leave them below. What are your thoughts? Do you think game jams are real games? Am I crazy for thinking they're real games? Am I missing something? Did I miss an argument or something? Leave it below, because I would love to hear from you. Once again, I'm Tim Ruswick, and I will see you tomorrow.